Hello everyone. In this video, I'll not be discussing much. It is kind of just meant to uh, introduce you to your mentors probably. I'll be discussing some very basic concepts and shall start with some terms that we would be using in this course of statistics very often. Some terms that are very necessary to be understood before we venture on to some very technical stuff. To begin with, we need to know what actually statistics is. And when we talk of statistics, uh, one very important thing is data. So we learn about data types. As I said, not in very detail today, but like just introducing the concepts to get us going. The third one would be population and sample. When you are actually collecting data, you have certain restrictions. So the concept that becomes important when we start talking about data is population and samples. Other than that, since we have to venture on to the concepts of probability, the uh, topic that we'll be discussing next will be random experiments. Again, to reiterate and to get familiar with certain terminologies that we would be using, I'll introduce you to sample space, events, and the idea of probability. So let's begin. This here is the agenda of this video. I hope you can see my cursor, but anyways, I'll continue. So this here is the agenda of this video. Let's begin. So what is statistics? Statistics is a discipline that provides methods for collecting, organizing, summarizing data. I think it's pretty clear, but I'll go over it very quickly. What it says is that statistics is essentially a discipline. And what do we do in this? We essentially collection of data is the process where you are actually like asking people and collecting data, or you are say doing web scraping and collecting data, or many other ways. We know what collection of data means. Organizing of data is very necessary because without it you cannot really uh, draw any inferences from raw data. So then we organize after collecting, and after that, uh, say if I do a very detailed analysis and I am presenting something before you, it's very important for me to summarize the things that I have input from any data. So the process of doing all these things comes under this discipline called statistics. And as I told, one important component when we talk about statistics is essentially data. So and of course, what's the purpose of doing all this? The purpose is to actually draw conclusions which might be useful for us. Like if you're doing some kind of analysis for an organization, conclusions that are useful for them. If you're doing some kind of analysis for the government, then the conclusions that are useful for the government. And if you're doing some kind of analysis for yourself, then of course conclusions that might be useful to you. So when we talk about data, they can actually be technically uh, broadly two types of data. The third one is multivariate, uh, uh, broadly three kinds of data, let's say. The first one, as you can see here, is called univariate data. So you can see I have underlined the word uni. What does uni means? Uni means one. What does bi means? Bi means two. And what does multi mean? Multi here means greater than two. So what do I mean when I say that a data is univariate? I've written here the explanation. By univariate data, we mean when observations are made only on one variable. What do I mean by that? Say I am collecting data and there is only one information that I am asking for from people. For instance, say the analysis that I am trying to do is that what is the average height of everyone who is watching this video right now. So what's the data that I would have to collect? There is only one data that I need from you all, which is your height. So this one variable here that I am talking about in this particular example is the height. and I'm making the observations on only one variable. I'm not even asking what is your age or what is your weight. There is only one variable about which I'm collecting making observations, and this one variable is height. So I think it would be pretty clear what do we mean by bivariate data now. Bi means two. So now I'm making observations on two variables. For instance, say I want to know the average BMI of all the of this class that is watching this video right now. What is BMI? In BMI, you have to calculate the ratio for which you need data about heights and weights. So now I'll be asking you for data on two variables. I'll be asking you about your height as well as your weight. So that is bivariate data. And what's multivariate? Multivariate obviously means that now I'm collecting data on variables that on more than two variables. For instance, say I'm asking you about your height, weight, as well as your age. So there are broadly these data types that we usually encounter. Now, now that we have talked about data and about data collection, so one of the major issues when it comes to collecting data is, say I am in the government and I need to collect data for some policy that I want to implement. So we all know that India's population is very huge. So what would I do? Would I essentially collect data from each and every person that is present in each and every person who is present in India? I think that's nearly impossible, because if I start collecting data from everyone, probably I'll keep collecting data throughout my life and the policy would never get implemented. So what is population? As might be clear from the example itself, if observations are made for every person that is present, all observations on a variable. So the variable here is, say, height. And if I collect all the observations for which means that heights of all the people present, that's what I meant by all observations on this particular variable. Say, let's take a better example. Say I want to calculate the GDP of India. And what I'm thinking of is that I'll ask each particular person who is earning about his or her income, and then I'll add it up and come up with the national income. So what I'm doing over here is that I'm taking all the observations over this variable income, or as in economics we denote as over this variable y. So if I make all the observations, that means I'm actually collecting data from the population. The population here can be think of as equivalent to some whole, WHOLE, not HOLE. I'm sorry about this bad handwriting. I don't have a tablet pen right now. So I think the idea of population might have become clear by this example. So usually when it's very difficult to collect all data about the variable from everyone, what we usually do is that we collect a sample. What does a sample mean? A sample is a subset of the population. Uh, I won't like to take this example of national income here, but say it's the same question about calculating the average height, and there are many students, thousands of students who are present in this class. And I don't want to make observations of on this variable for the whole class. What I will then do is I will select a subset of the population. I'll choose a few students, I'll ask them about their height, and then I'll try to infer some results based on this particular sample of mine. So that's what we mean by sample. Okay, so as far as the data domain was concerned, what we have learned till now is we learned what is statistics, which is collecting, organizing, and summarizing data for, of course, drawing conclusions. What are the data types? The data types are univariate, bivariate, and multivariate. And when we collect data, some other important concepts that we encounter is this concept of population and sample. So now I will like to discuss some other important terms in the field of statistics by moving forward. So The next term that we are going to discuss is experiment. What is an experiment? Experiment is a process whose outcome is not known in advance with certainty. So it's essentially a process. And what is important here is that the outcome of this process is not known in advance with certainty. For instance, say I am tossing a coin. As long as the coin is in the air, I do not know in advance whether it will be a head or tail. So that's what is meant by the outcome of which is not known in advance. And why do we add with certainty over here? Because I do know that it will either be heads or tails. It won't be cats or dogs or anything else. I do know that it will be either heads or tails, but I don't know with certainty which particular outcome it would be. So that's what is meant by this whole line. That while I'm tossing the coin, I do not know in advance what will the outcome be with certainty. All right. Now, another way in which we can define it or use this notion is that it's a process. It can be repeated often and under identical conditions. For instance, what do I mean by this? This process of tossing a coin and getting either heads or tails is something that I can repeat any number of times and the experiment would still be the same. It won't happen that once I for the first time that I'm tossing a coin, there are two options, heads or tails, but the second time I'm tossing it, coin has changed and something else happens. That's not the case. The conditions in which these experiments are performed are often identical. For instance, if I roll a die for even thousands times, I'll still be expecting the same outcomes. It will be one of the six numbers that are present on the faces of the die. And as is also apparent, the second point is that it has a well defined set of outcomes. As I said, like it won't happen that suddenly a die starts giving a number seven by when you roll it. There is a well defined set of outcomes. You can either get one, two, three, four, five, or six. When you toss a coin, you can either get heads or tails. So a random experiment is kind of a process that can be repeated as many times as you want it under identical conditions, and it has a well-defined set of outcomes. But what is special about this? What is special is that while you are performing this experiment, you don't know in advance with any kind of certainty that I will get this outcome only. That's then not a random experiment. Uh, that's something else. So moving on, I talked about this idea of sample, but I'll still like to reiterate this term called sample space. Uh, so when we are talking about space, I don't want to go into the concepts of linear algebra. Probably Niranjan would be discussing those with you. But when we use this word called space, we enter the domain of linear algebra, but we don't need to concern ourselves with that right now. uh, let's just say sample space is collection of all possible outcomes of a random experiment. For instance, while we are tossing a coin in this experiment, what is the collection of all possible outcomes? The collection will contain any outcome that can happen when you conduct this experiment. And what are the outcomes that can happen? One outcome that can happen is that the toss results in a head. The second outcome that can happen is that the toss results in a tail. So this is a collection, heads, tails. This is the sample space. I won't get any other outcome when I perform this experiment. There are only these two possible outcomes that can happen. For instance, when let's take another example. When say I am rolling a dice, what are the collection of all possible outcomes that can happen? It can either give me one, two, three, four, five, or six. So this is the collection of all possible outcomes. That's what we mean by sample space. That is the result that you get is from this collection only. It cannot come from anything that is not present in this collection. Okay. I've written this S in the bracket just to capture this notion that uh, in this course ahead, wherever I use S, unless otherwise specified, is used to donate sample space. Similarly, when I use A, I mean an event. I will explain you what an event is, but I was just like explaining what is this S and A. S and A are just notions that I will use to define a sample space or an event. This is just being done to save time. I don't want to write sample space event every time I write about it. So let's move ahead. What's an event? Yeah. So let's continue with this concept of event that after talking about the sample space. Let's read together what this is. Event A. Sorry, event which I am further going to represent by A. An event is a subset of sample space, and we say that an event A has occurred if the outcome of the experiment is in A. Now, what do we mean by this? Let's go over this word by word. I'll just change the color. The first line says that event is a subset of sample space. And when do we say that an event has occurred? If the outcome of the experiment is present in A. Let's take an example to get this concept clear in our heads. Say this is my sample space. This S over here is my sample space. And this sample space contains these elements: potato, tomato, onion, apple, and orange. And say A1 is the first event that I'm talking about. And this event is a fruit. A2 is the second event that I'm talking about. And this event is a vegetable. All right, now let's go back to our definition. What does the definition say? That event is a subset of sample space. Look at our sample space. Our sample space is this. And when I say this event is a fruit, what does it actually entails? It entails this particular subset of our sample space. If I get the outcome that is either apple or orange, then I will say that is a fruit event has occurred. So essentially, event is this event is a subset of sample space. For example, this subset over here. And when will I say that an event has occurred? I will say that this event is a fruit has occurred if the outcome that I get is present in this subset. That is, it is either apple or it is orange. Let's go over it again. When will I say that event is a vegetable has occurred? I will say that is a vegetable has occurred when I get the outcome that is present in this particular subset. So talking about probability now, we have talked about what is a sample space. We have talked about what is a random experiment. But now moving on to something that we talk about the most when we are studying statistics in a college or in school, we mostly talk about probability. So what is probability? Probability is essentially a function. We have all learned in our class 10 and 12 what is actually a function. We have also learned in our undergrad. Sorry, I always assume that I'm probably teaching undergrad students. We know that the function has essentially two main things that we have to remember. If this is, say, the place from where we are taking the domain, and this from where we are taking elements. I mean, let's say A is domain and B is codomain. What we need essentially for a function is that it should assign something to every element that is present in this domain. And the mapping should not be like this. It should not be like an open mouth. It should be like a closed mouth. That means for any element, it cannot happen that you assign two values after the mapping. It can be closed mouth. You can assign the same value to two different elements in the domain, but you cannot assign one particular element two different values. So these are the main things, main important components or say properties of function. But we don't need to bother ourselves with that as of now. Let's move ahead. What is this definition of probability saying? This is a function, but what is the domain and the codomain of this particular function? This is a function from events to this real number space, and to be more precise, this space contains only values between 0 and 1. So what this is essentially saying is that you will assign a number between 0 and 1 to each event. For instance, if I say the event of an even number occurring, probability is that function that will assign this event the number 3 by 6, which actually is the likelihood of that event occurring, which is exactly what is mentioned here. It is a number attached to an event, which will then express the likelihood of the event occurring. So, in technical terms, it's basically just a function that will give you a number between 0 and 1 for each event. But what is the significance of that number? That number ends up telling you what is the likelihood of the happening of that thing. All right. And here, this is the same thing, the concept that we have to remember when we are talking about functions. It should be able to assign probability to each particular event. It cannot happen that an event occurs and you tell me that I cannot assign a probability to it. Though there can be certain technicalities you can get into with respect to what if the number of events are infinite and stuff, but let's not get into those complexities. We know what are the things important for a function. It must look like this. It must not look like this second image here. You cannot say that the probability of an even number coming is both 0.5 and 0.7. You have to attach only one number when you talk about probability. Uh, so, sorry, that is the third case that I just talked about. You cannot assign two different probability numbers to a single event. However, this is possible that two events have the same probability. For instance, the event of an odd number occurring is also 0.5, and the event of an even number occurring is also 0.5. And for those of you wondering how did I get 0.5, I got it from this 3 by 6, which ends up giving you 0.5. And we all know what are the axioms of probability. There are basically three axioms. The first one is that the probability must always be greater than equals to 0. Second is if you can include the whole sample space, the probability is 1, because it's apparent from the very definition of probability that it's the collection of all possible outcomes. So there cannot be any outcome that comes that is not present in the sample space. So if you calculate the probability of getting an event from the sample space, it's definitely 1, because it cannot happen that you get something that is not present in the sample space. So the probability is 1. And the third one is that if there are disjoint events. What do I mean by disjoint events? That there is essentially, you can think of it in terms of sets as well, that there are no intersections when you draw. What did we learn? We learned that events are essentially subsets. So if you visualize it in terms of sets, this kind of thing should not be happening. That this is A1, say this is the subset that represents event A1, to be more precise. This is the subset that represents event A2. Then if this kind of a thing is not happening where you have this common area, if this is the case, then the probability of union of all these events is just the sum of it. I'm not going into a detail of this right now, because like this is just to give an idea. but we can go into the detail if you want. Um, let's keep it till here. We'll talk about random variables next, but let's reserve that for another video or another lecture, wherever